Georgia prisoner Troy Davis was scheduled to be executed by the state of Georgia at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. As 7 p.m. Eastern approached tonight, it seemed like the avenues available to avert his execution had been exhausted. But then the 7 p.m. hour arrived and passed without action by the state as word came down that the United States Supreme Court was considering whether or not to review a request for a stay of execution. The Supreme Court has stopped, or at least delayed, 2 executions in the past week, Cleve Foster and Dwayne Buck, both Texas prisoners. And now, as of 7 p.m. Eastern tonight, the Supreme Court has at least delayed the execution of Troy Davis, perhaps the most attention-getting death penalty case in this country in the past decade. Joining us now from outside the prison in Jackson, Georgia, where Troy Davis was scheduled to be executed more than 2 hours ago, is the president and CEO of the NAACP, Ben Jealous. Ben, thanks very much for being with us tonight. It's nice to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Rachel. It's always good to be here.
I understand you were with Mr. Davis's family when they received news of the delay this evening. Can you tell us what their reaction was?
You know, this is a family that's always prepared for something unexpected to happen, for, their faith to be vindicated. And last night, Troy, for the second time, refused his last meal. He had done this several years ago. And that faith again bore out. And so they were prepared for both possibilities. They didn't know whether they were coming to witness a miracle or a funeral, but they were prepared for both.
In terms of the victim's family here, the relatives of Officer McPhail say that the efforts to cast Troy Davis as a victim of a miscarriage of justice here are not only not things that they agree with, but that they feel like they have been victimized by the length of time it has taken to resolve this case, and that they feel hurt by the continued protestations of Troy Davis's guilt when they feel like he has been convicted justly and they would like to see him executed. How does that affect your feelings about advocacy for Troy Davis and the movement to support him, which the NAACP has been so involved with?
We're very clear that Officer McPhail, that he was a hero, that McPhail was a hero, that night he did not fail to do his duty even though he was off duty, that he went and saved a homeless man and lost his life in the process. And yet, as our heart goes out to the family, we know that justice must be precise, that we cannot in this country allow people to be executed amid so much doubt. Now, I personally have reviewed thousands of cases in my career. I have worked on capital punishment issues off and on for more than 15 years. We've never seen a case like this before, where the case for innocence was so compelling, where you had 7 of the 9 eyewitnesses, and the only thing that put them on death row was their word. 7 of them, one way or the other, have now admitted that they've lied. You just don't see cases like this often, and I wish that the city of Savannah would reopen the case, would look at all of the suspects. I was on CNN today with a woman who lives in fear for her life daily because she says that just a few years ago, a man admitted to her that he was the actual killer. This is a man who was a suspect. This is a man who is one of the 2 remaining witnesses against Troy Davis. And she says that he admitted that he was the actual killer and that he just a few months ago threatened her life. And so she fled Savannah. And she finally decided that talking about that threat publicly perhaps would make her more safe. And so, here we are 22 years later, questions, people being threatened, former head of the FBI coming forward saying there's too much doubt, former warden of this prison coming forward saying there's too much doubt. This is not your usual case. Our heart goes out to the McPhail family. We want them to have closure. We want them to have peace, and we want there to be justice, but justice must be precise.
Ben, I know that this case has been important to you personally as well as to the NAACP for a long time. Am I right that in remembering that you have met with Troy Davis, that you have spoken with him personally during the course of his incarceration?
Yes. We were together less than a month ago here at the prison for hours, and we sat and we talked. We spent a lot of time, talking about his fear of this moment. He, unlike many death row inmates, has had 4 execution dates. He's come down to the wire within 45 minutes the last time, and how he just couldn't take it anymore. I mean, he's a man of tremendous faith, a man who's ultimately one of the most fearless people I know. But you could see a little crack there for a second as he just kind of spoke to his vulnerability as a human. I mean, it is inhumane to go through this 4 times. with all this doubt, we just shouldn't be here. We should be in a courtroom rehearing this case. He talked about the investment he's made in his nephew, who's really like a son to him, who has visited him virtually every weekend he's been in death row. And this is a young man, he's a beautiful young man. He's on his way to college. He's an aspiring young robotic scientist. Maybe he wants to go into biogenetics. A very bright young man. He'll tell you what Troy said, which is that Troy's invested in him, helping him learn right from wrong, keeping him motivated, telling him every weekend, you are my biggest investment. And we talked about his frustration that this prison has refused again and again to let the media in to talk to him. 60 Minutes has been wanting to get on to talk to him. This network's wanted to talk to him. So many others, and yet they keep shutting the door. And I confronted the warden, and I said, look, what deal can we cut to get them in here, to get him on the phone, to let him tell? And the warden, at the end of all of that, said, well, 22 years ago, I was law enforcement in Savannah. And I didn't know that. And I don't know why that matters, but to him, that mattered. This morning, that same warden refused to let Troy take a polygraph test. It's frankly something that's a real risk for a death row inmate on your day of execution, because everybody can be very jittery. Yet Troy wanted to take it, and the warden said no. This is a remarkable case, and it really deserves the full attention of the public that it's receiving right now.
Ben Jealous, president of the NAACP nationally, joining us from outside the prison in Jackson, Georgia, where Troy Davis was scheduled to be executed more than 2 hours ago. Ben Jealous, thank you so much for your time tonight. We'll stay in touch with you as this case continues to unfold. We will be right back with Frank Rich. Please do stay with us.